Given 7 o'clock, call meeting to order for the town of Wheaton for December 10th, 2019. Rise to say the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Laura Hayden.
Yes.
Wayne Miller.
Here.
Alice Drosky.
Here.
Ken Books. Here. Bud Beckwood.
Here.
Mark Glasgow.
Approval of the agenda.
I make a motion, we approve the agenda as written.
I second it.
Motion made, seconded, to approve the agenda. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Clerk report. But we had everybody got to see the minutes. Need a motion on them.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Where your pen? I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes from the last meeting. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Check register.
Thank you.
Yeah, have that, is that coming around?
Yeah, it's coming down.
On its way down.
Oh, thanks, bud. Room there?
Oh, sure. I'm just
Public
a little
comment.
disorganized.
No public comments, moving on. Treasurer's report. Got the balance report here. Looks like we're about right where we thought we were going to be when we did our budget, so we've got, we need to have how much have we spent on that, on the tornado so far, actually written out check?
Cash out,
Yeah,
$81,359.80.
so this 927, there's another 81 on that.
That's gonna come out, of that, yeah.
What's that?
That's gonna come out of that.
No, I mean, what checks, what's out of it already?
What's out of it already?
Yeah, what checks have we written? I mean, cause we wrote out the ones for the big ones.
When you look at your bank balance on there, the checks that I've written out for, SV trucking, Gata logging, those have not cleared the bank as of yet, so those are not in there.
Okay,
So you've got another, let's say, $55,000 of uncleared checks that are gonna come out of that balance.
okay,
Plus, I just received a statement today from the paving company, Monarch. There's 2 outstanding invoices from them. I need to contact them. That'll come out of there. That's from this year's budget.
So what was the figure, 81,000?
$81,359.80. Some of that's already been taken from there, because in that 81,000 there is like dump fees. We've been paying advance disposal along the way. Any overtime costs for Lenny and Matt. But just looking at what's outstanding now, at least another 50,000 come out of there, 55,000 of tornado related expenses.
so you're saying we'll be at 870, somewhere around there.
Well, you gotta keep in mind the paving expense too. I don't recall what that was, but we'll have to pay those. 72nd Street and 30th Avenue.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
right. Any other discussion about the treasurer's report? Fire board report.
November 19th, the fire board meeting was in Howard Station, and it was a full house with almost 95% or better of Wheaton people there. There was, they let public comment be heard. There was no discussion on it though by the board. And we also talked about this charges for services, and that's not for people that are residents in the townships, but for out of the townships, like if there was car accidents or vehicle fires, spills or leaks or fires or whatever. And this was what the cost was, and I asked them, they said, well, they do this every couple of years, and I said, well, where was the last one, so we got something to compare it to. They did have that. I don't know why they didn't attach that to the original, but it was pretty close. Everybody voted for it. I voted no. So, and basically that was it. Mr. Staver talked about they'd like to try to keep it peaceful, and he said it's, you know, this is probably like a bad divorce between the Wheaton and the district, and he hopes it don't get out of hand and ends up at the lawyers, which we do too. So, and that was about basically it. There wasn't very much other. So that was it.
Okay. Planning Commission report.
The Wheaton Planning Commission met on December 3rd, 2019. All the members were present. Absent was Scott Morris. Our next meeting will be January 7th, 2020. Under new business, Cedar Corp was there. Mr. Len Schreiber. Elite Extra, a new office building, 2985 58th Street of Montclair, Wisconsin. And Mr. Schreiber, Mr. Christian, and Mr. Schindler from Cedar Corp presented the civil site plan and architectural plan for the building extension that Applied Data is planning for their business. The gentleman answered questions posed by the Wheaton Planning Commission members and public attendees. The motion by Hayden McKinley to approve Cedar Corp site plans is presented. The motion carried 6-0. There's land annexation that was discussed. This was just presented as information only to the committee. There's going to be 16.9 acres annexed into the city of Eau Claire. Then there are 2 Chapter 25 ordinances. The comp plan ordinance needed to be renumbered. A number needed to be assigned to the notice of records access ordinance, and the erosion control ordinance needed to get signed a Chippewa County reference number. So the metallic mine ordinance was remaining as Chapter 25, while the comp plan ordinance became Chapter 27. That motion carried 6-1. Then the notice of records access ordinance is numbered Chapter 28. That motion carried 6-1. We changed the erosion control ordinance from 7181D to reference Chippewa County's Chapter 12, which is storm water management. There was a proposed ordinance amendment public utilities review from Doug Clary. We discussed this proposed amendment and some questions were raised. Will this allow power companies to run power lines wherever they want in Ag 1, in the conservatory districts R1, R2, and R3? Why not just apply the proposed amendment language changes to highway commercial? Since Wheaton is a more rural township, why couldn't it just say that it didn't relate to, say, ag districts? And Ken Books commented that county zoning is open to questions and comments from the public. Ms. Drosky advised she will contact Doug Clary with the Wheaton Planning Commission's concerns, which I've done. We'll talk about that later. 2 driveways for subdivisions. The September tornado damaged a cul-de-sac in the town of Wheaton, and residents expressed concern that there was only 1 exit route. Wheaton Planning Commission members discussed the matter but took no action. Driveways, keeping them open for emergency vehicles, In response to concerns brought forth by the Wheaton residents, Wheaton Planning Commission members discussed the importance of keeping driveways open for emergency vehicles, trimming overhead tree branches, and keeping the right-of-way clear. However, creating an ordinance would not be practical, so no action was taken. Trailers limited to trailer parks. Due to concerns brought forward by Wheaton residents, Wheaton Planning Commission members discussed mobile homes being set up on lots that were not within a mobile park, but no action was taken by the Wheaton Planning Commission. The Wheaton Winter Newsletter was discussed, and the recent survey taken of township residents resulted in 50% feedback, a phenomenal number according to the facilitator. The public meetings will be scheduled for April and May of 2020. Under old business was the proposed sign regulation amendments. Ken Book stated the Chippewa County meeting, attended the Chippewa County meeting where the proposed sign regulation amendments were discussed. Ken Books advised that the illuminated signs were an issue at the meeting. Doug Clary advised that only Wheaton of the zoned Chippewa County townships had questions or concerns about the sign regulation amendments. Clary moved the issue to the zoning committee for further review. Books suggested that the Wheaton Planning Commission make their recommendations and take them back to zoning. Ms. Dosky will contact Doug Clary and pose more questions and concerns. Mr. Patrick Bufus from Cedar Corp was not in attendance at the meeting. He will be there in January. So our next agenda is set for January 7th of 2020, and on there is the review of the comp plan, and we adjourned at 2:02 p.m. or 9:02 p.m. Whoa, 2 in the morning? 9:02 p.m.
Late meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to Wheaton Fire Department Committee.
You want to do parks first, or no?
Oh, town parks. Parks.
We don't want to forget Ken.
All right, our meeting was Tuesday, November 26th, 7 p.m. We, under old business, updated Parks Commission members on the town property firewood policy, our parks budget for 2020, and then the results of the landscaping maintenance and irrigation maintenance bids. We then worked on parks expansion trail names. We're continuing to do some research on some of the Wheaton history, trying to come up with some information that would tie that in, much like what we did with the field names, which are all named after schools that used to be in Wheaton. So we feel that it's a nice way to bring some of that history in, and so we're continuing to work on that. Under new business, we discussed moving Parks Commission meeting dates, basically due to meeting conflicts that were coming up. So our next meeting will be Monday, December 30th, and then for January, February, and March, we'll move our meetings to the 4th Tuesday of the month. So, and then we reviewed our Wheaton Winter Newsletter Parks information, and then the last part, we began working on the DNR Recreational Boating Facilities Grant application. Meeting adjourned at 8:26.
Okay, moving on to the Wheaton Fire Department.
Okay. As I was asked to do, I formed a committee. Most of the committee is a lot of the people that were on the research committee for if we should get out or not. They showed interest and they wanted to follow through. They said as long as they started, they like to finish it too. And my committee is Mark Bruner, Eugene Gutsch, Scott Morris, and I asked Les Schaefer because he offered to help us. He's the chief from Elk Mound, to come whenever he could and help us through the things we need to get help through. As far as the other people, Alice offered to do notes and be secretary for me, whenever she can make it, which is fine. I appreciate that. I called for a meeting, asked what would be the best, January 9th or the 16th of 2020, and everybody was real open to it. In fact, I had a real positive response and said, why not have one this month? And I said, well, I didn't think anybody would like to, being that Christmas is coming up. And they said, heck with it, let's get this thing going. There's a lot of high spirits. A lot of people want to get this thing, the ball rolling, which is great. So I did call a meeting for next Thursday at 7 o'clock. And what my plans are there is to get everybody in there, gain their thoughts. We're going to have Alice there to write on the charts for us of the things that we have to accomplish, and then we'll number them in which order. Things have to be done first, and then as we get them done, we'll check them off. So I'm real encouraged by the enthusiasm shown by the people. Oh, the fireman is Andrew Wood, Brian Garretts, Adam Blaskowski, Bob Hayden wanted to be involved as far as checking out trucks that we buy, and so did Scott Deutscher, asked if he could for that part, and I said sure. So we got them on that part of it. We needed the firemen for their experience. They know it better than anybody else and what they need and stuff. And we'll discuss things, whatever we have to do to make this happen. And I believe it'll happen without any problem. Sure, Herb.
Is that a public meeting?
Sure.
And where's that at?
It's at the fire station. I probably won't have any public comment because we have a lot to accomplish. And we aren't gonna have it disturbed. It's open, you can come.
I'm going to. This is what you just added there. That wasn't necessary.
Well,
Okay,
sometimes it is.
all right, so we got that starting to go. Report of tornado expenditures and status of paperwork, so we got some of that, Scott. So we've got, didn't we have another date here?
December 23rd is the next, December 23rd is the next date. We've submitted so far expenses for $156,849.13. The only expense that I can think of that is going to add into that will be the most recent advanced disposal bill that we paid. I think that was like $1,200. So anything going forward I consider to be fairly insignificant compared to what's already been paid. One question people might have, we just reported $81,359.80 actual paid out. How do we get to $156,849.13? The state allows amounts to be billed per hour for equipment usage. So the amounts that were used for the end loader, the 2 dump trucks, the skid steer at the dump, the 1-ton truck, those expenses, even though they're not really cash paid out, we get credit for that up to the amount that we've submitted for that. So
Okay.
now the state has requested copies of all invoices to back up these amounts, which I have got and will submit this week.
Okay, so that's being submitted this week.
And then that gives Dennis Brown the opportunity to, look it over, see if we need more. I can back up all the amounts that we have, so
Yeah.
whatever they need, we can provide.
Yep, okay. So we're getting that stuff in, and then we'll have we'll have next week for him to be looking at it and let us know if we need additional information by Friday, which is the 20th or something.
Do you see any reason to, file an extension to, for more expenses? I guess I personally don't.
No.
Like I say, I'd be surprised if we come up with, another $5,000.
Right.
I mean, there could be some more. Roger probably has got a good idea. Do you still see storm disposal
Very
needs?
little, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if we get one more dumpster out of that probably
Snow
be,
took care of that.
yeah, more than likely, yeah. So, I think we're kind of where we're at with these expenses. It's just a matter of finalizing all the paperwork with the state.
Okay, so at this point, we just, now, has Dennis said anything to you about when, how long it is to get paid, reimbursed for that?
Nothing in particular. He said it was, within a few months, which
Yeah,
I mean,
it seemed like it was like 4 or 5 months that we would,
I'd like to think that we're gonna have money from the state by this time next year. I guess that would be my, finalize it by the end of
Yeah.
2020,
and hopefully it's quicker than that,
but
Hopefully.
kind of out of our control at that point. All we can do is submit for it and wait for the money.
but. Alright, and hopefully it's quicker than that, but then as you see there, we just got our check from FEMA for the flooding from 2016 here the other day for $8,592.88. So that's how long it took to get from 2016 till 2019.
How do you want, I guess my only question with that money is how you wanna receive those funds? How do you wanna book that revenue? Do you
Well,
wanna book it separate, a separate line item?
Yeah, separate line item, yep. Yep, so that we keep track of that.
I mean, there's nothing really to offset that with from 2016, that's long since over with.
Right,
I mean, that,
right. But we'll do that same thing with the tornado and everything, just keep separate line items for that stuff so that it's clear where that money was from and.
I do think,
Yeah, we don't have anything to book against it because we already paid them costs, so.
I do think at this point, as we started to pay tornado-related expenses, we should reimburse the town out of the donations that we received. To date, received here at the town hall, I've received $16,174.18. We had the Parks League, the Ball League, offered to double any donations from Parks related members, so we will get another $440 from the Ball League for match donations from their people. So, and plus there was some money that was also donated directly at Northwestern Bank. So if the board agrees, I think a check should be written out of the donation fund back to the town of Wheaton to cover some of the expenses we already paid.
Yeah, that's what it's for, so.
Everybody agree? Yes?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so that check will be written this week for whatever the balance is once we receive the bank statement.
Yeah, I mean, writing the check is just an accounting thing to make sure keeps track of.
Yeah,
Because it's just going into the same bank accounts anyway, but.
Right, it's just kind of, the bank accounts are separate right now, they are separate.
For the tornado thing,
Yeah, there was a, donation bank account.
Right.
What we'll do is just deposit this in our,
Right,
general bank
Right.
account that we
yeah,
pay regular bills out of.
yeah.
Roger, how many, we still got a bunch of empty 40-yarders down there, or 32? You got it down to 2 now? Okay. You're just having them come in empty and haul out? Okay. So get them cleaned up?
You want to get it filled up?
For a small fee.
Yeah.
All right, moving on then, website updates, changes and additions. Anything that the board would like to have?
Yeah.
So we can go over, we did add update the ordinance page, just to call out the different ordinances that were approved, and what the adopted date was, just so that people can see that portion. When you come in here, you can click on that corresponding chapter and it will bring you right into that specific chapter as part of it. So, and then the other piece, so I just used the other piece that we did is we added a column for Chippewa County and then also the state of Wisconsin
Okay.
references as well. And so those are linked if you came in here. So like, this would be chapter 1. But if you came in here and clicked on it, it'll go right to that portion of Chippewa County in that specific ordinance.
Okay. So it's all tied together.
Yep. So those are out there for each of the different chapters. So if they're, if the town of Wheaton decided they weren't going to have it and they were just going to refer to Chippewa County or that state one, then underneath the town of Wheaton we just put refer to state of Wisconsin or refer to Chippewa County so people can understand that.
Yeah.
And then you listed the statutes.
Yep.
Right
Okay.
there, yep.
Great. As far as, did you put another page on there, or are you, I would take it you will if you have it for the fire committee?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And that way we can report to you and you can post it so everybody can see
Yep.
where we're at and where we're progressing.
Yeah, I think we'll do a separate page from that initial,
From the
from
research
the
one?
research
Okay.
committee, just so we had, in
That's
case
fine. Keep
people
it
wanna
separate. Yep.
look at any historical information, we have it.
We want to be completely open about it.
Okay. Any questions? Other suggestions?
Thank you for doing that, Ken.
Yeah, thanks,
You
Ken.
did just a great job on that. The planning commission thanks you. Thank
Yes.
you.
The town board thanks you.
That too, yes.
Yes.
We do.
Getting pretty good at things.
Oh, it's very great, it's great.
Okay, review, discuss, any updates on the protection of groundwater issues, anything?
Nothing new.
Okay, we still just need to keep reminding people, it's on the
Yep,
website, and
everything is. Lots of good resources there.
And as we get information, we'll keep putting it on there to try and get control of what we have going on out here, and if there's anything we can do about it to make it better.
Did they get that
All
all
need
mapped out?
clean
now?
water.
That map's been on there, the nitrate map is
Oh,
on
is
there.
it?
Yep,
Okay.
it's been on there for a few months, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Review, discuss, act on additional cleanup of a section of pasture at the Alney Farm. The only bid received was for $10,800. Discuss the timing and how to get this done with volunteers. I mean, the township really has, it's not liable for doing any of this. I don't mind helping out, but I think we need to do that with volunteers and go out there and, I mean, the winter weather obviously isn't gonna let us do anything at this point, but I'm still, I looked at it, I don't think that that's anywhere near 2 feet deep or anything like that. Cleaning up nails and in all them fields and everything, Tornado did that. I have no idea how you clean up aluminum nails out of fields, other than walk around and pick them up one at a time.
I did stop and talk to Jody the next day, the next morning. And as I had talked to her for a half hour, and as I was talking to her, it started snowing. Well, before we got done, I think we had almost 2 inches of snow on the ground. And it wasn't 100 yards by 100 yards.
No.
The little heavier tar paper and stuff is maybe 100 yards, but the actual mess is about 100 feet by 100 feet square. And I suggested she get somebody in there and just scrape it up into a pile now, so when it comes spring, or if they still had time this fall, it shouldn't take more than a dump truck load to get all that out of there, that dirt that they're concerned about being what's there, so.
Yeah, we'll just have to, I think our best bet is to wait till the spring, and, I mean, it's not like the horses are gonna be out there grazing in that
No.
section at this point or anything, so.
And I've had a couple of farmers complain about, they're getting flat tires on some of their vehicles, but I mean, that's up in Howard and going up towards Bloomer. I mean, there's nothing we can do about it. It was an inact of God. We're not responsible for it.
You know, I wish there was some way of picking all that stuff up, I just don't know how you do it. It's all them aluminum nails and stuff.
Did his insurance cover any of that cleanup? Scott called me.
Yeah, some of it,
They said what they say they got
5,000
$5,000.
or something, I don't know. I'm not sure, maybe 3,000, I don't know. Don't know, some of it they covered, but, yeah, I mean, just to clean stuff like that up, that's just, you know, it's not really the taxpayer's responsibility to clean that up. I don't mind going out there to help if you get to, you know, have the time and a crew to do it, and I don't mind to personally go out there and help, but, just got to a time of the year where we just haven't been able to swing that, and it's just
So
the way it is.
the stuff that was picked up by volunteers, I take it. Did he pay them volunteers out of that $3,000? He just pocketed it.
They claim, she told me that they had 4 dumpsters that they hauled out of their,
Right,
that they paid for out of their own pocket, out of them.
Which-
But the
and-
town picked up that bill on the dumpsters that we had around.
$3,000 the town paid. for
Plus-
dumpsters.
Plus the cost of Sveves going in there with that piece of equipment, was that about $1,500 a day or something?
All of that, yes.
With the clam,
yeah.
to pick that up and get rid of
I
it?
think that overall it's been fairly reasonable and fair, and, you know, for what was going on, I don't know that anybody can really complain about any of it. You know, it's just, you know, some people had worse luck than others, and some had better luck than others. I don't know what else you can do.
But
I
it
mean,
just been plowed under.
well, what's there shouldn't be. I mean, it needs some cleanup on the top of it yet.
Okay.
And then the rest of it could be plowed under though.
That 100-foot square should probably be
fine.
scraped down a couple inches, wouldn't you say?
Oh, an inch or two, yeah.
Yeah, and just hauled out, like I said, you should
And
be
then
able to
plow
do
it
it
under.
in,
Well, I think then you just plow it, turn it over and.
right, the rest of it, but I wouldn't think there would be more than a big dump truck full to haul out of there.
Yeah, and that kind of stuff, I don't, you know, we can throw it in a dumpster or whatever, I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but $10,800 is quite a bill for that. I mean, that's like, well, okay, that's how much it is to take off 6 inches of
That's the
soil,
horse ranch
that's a
stone.
lot. So, I don't know, what do you guys, you have any other opinions about it, or what we should be doing with that?
Well, my opinion is maybe in the spring, if we do wanna do anything, is maybe go down there with our end loader, scrape up that 100-foot square, throw it in the dump truck and get it out of there, and then they're responsible for the balance.
Yeah, and I
mean,
think
they
we can
just-
swing that.
And I mean, we could put an ad out there, people that wanted to volunteer to help
Right.
some people, and send some over there to,
Right, and I
I
think
mean, they
you-
can rake
I
100
think you
yards
take
by
the
100
blade, put it
yards.
down and start going, and have people with rakes and shovels and just push the junk into the, as you're going, you wouldn't even have to scrape up much dirt with it, it would be
Right.
mostly just the trash.
Well, there was
Now, you gotta
very,
wait till it thaws out, but,
as you've seen, there was very little sod broke. I mean, the main sod that was broke up was that 100-foot square, not 100 yards. It was a 100-foot square. And, that's all that was really broke up. The rest of it, the sod was solid there.
okay. All right, well, we'll just kinda go with that and talk to Scott and Jody and make sure we get all that taken care of, so. All right, discuss act on proposed sign regulation amendments from Doug Clary, Chippewa zoning. Ken Books went, and we've got a few items of concern yet.
Yep, I went to the zoning meeting, so kind of put things in perspective, they've been working on this ordinance for about the last 18 months. You know, working on it, trying to come up with different verbiage, so kind of to lay the foundation of how long they've been working on this one. So, you know, as part of this, you know, coming out of our last meeting, you know, there certainly was a lot of concerns, reservations with the amount of red lines that were going in here and some of the different pieces that they were doing. We had a good discussion, you know, at the meeting, specifically around the sign illumination. When they, in each of the scenarios, they, you know, Doug gave an example of, you know, so that we could relate to it. So for the sign illumination, he used the example as, let's say over by Circle M, they were to get rid of that billboard sign, and they were to replace it with an illuminated sign there. At that point, that's where that sign illumination would come in. What Chippewa County was doing is basically inserting language that's in the state law into their ordinance as part of it. You know, and of course, the first comment was, why not just reference the state ordinance in there, not interject a couple pages worth of red lines that make it seem like Chippewa County is the one that's adding all this other language. Obviously a valid concern. You know, Doug had his concerns as well. You know, if something were to change, I said, well, you still got to keep things current. And also, if the state law changes, now, you know, Chippewa County is going to have to constantly go in and update their ordinances as well. So, you know, a reference point similar to what the Plan Commission has done with the town of Wheaton ones. We're not rewriting Chippewa County ordinances for the town of Wheaton. If they suffice, we're just referencing them and moving along. There was a piece in there where they talked about, so when they get into these very specific, you know, shall not exceed 7,500 nits during daylight hours, that was all pieces that was coming out of the state law. That tells them this is what they have to do, so it, you know, it is not creating a distraction for drivers when they're going down the road and whatnot. That's where the length of time, as far as how long the message could display. The piece where we, you know, where they said the owner must provide at least 5 hours per month for public messaging announcements at no cost to the town. This one, what they had said is they reached out to all the sign companies in the Chippewa County, that service in the Chippewa County areas, and those sign companies had agreed to do this 5 hours. You know, well, one piece that could come up is what happens if a new sign company comes in. So now they have to automatically agree to this 5 hours. What if they don't want to agree to that? And so, you know, the next piece that came out of that, well, it can be at the local government's decision. If they don't want to make them, you know, have them provide those 5 hours, that's fine. They don't have to. So there is some local control there. The other piece, when we were talking about, you know, they had removed all the campaign signs, holiday signs, different nameplates. They put that out and instead put that underneath personal expression signs, but they don't really include any examples in the personal expression signs. So, you know, you could have a laundry list of different signs there. Specifically, we, you know, also had discussed, you know, the size of signs. So specifically, as we look at, you know, some of the things that have come up with local businesses, and you know, and so part of that, what we had come across is there's another provision that is in the home occupation ordinance that has a sign restriction in it, but it is not in the sign ordinance. It is only in that home occupation ordinance. So there's kind of two reference points in a sense to where to go get that information. And then the other piece that,
Okay, but on that home occupation
Yep.
one, which is something that Scott
Yep.
brought up here. So Doug is saying that he can, and the way it sounds, he's going to just change that home occupation to say 32 square feet.
Yeah, so in egg districts,
Correct.
or in egg
In
districts.
ag district, if you have a home occupation, in an ag district, you'd be able to have 32 square
Yeah.
foot sign.
That wouldn't apply in residential, just in ag.
Just in
Just
egg
in ag.
districts.
Right, just in the ag, because it's open areas, it's so, and we don't have residential out here anyway, I mean, we got
Right.
Right.
one little tiny place with residential, and that's, so everything else is ag, but, so, he was, he had sent the thing, Doug had sent this
Just
on
on Monday.
December 9th,
Yep.
on Monday, that he was willing to go back through there, and, so you didn't take that sign down yet. So he's willing to go through and get that, to change that, so that in an ag, home occupation in an ag, that you would be able to maintain a 32-foot square sign, so.
And I think
So
the
that
other,
wouldn't be-
the other piece that
And that
kind
was
of,
some of Ken's lobbying up there the
Yeah.
other day. Why are we hurting, trying to get rid of businesses, or damaging businesses in town, telling them to go across the road? We need them here. We don't wanna tell them to go across the road, we want them to stay here. So, and some, them arguments work lots of times, so it seems to have worked. But, cause as of Monday now, Doug's saying that he'd definitely be taking a look at doing that, so that he doesn't have to change the sign ordinance, he just has to change the ordinance in the home occupation part of the,
and it's specifically in home occupation, it's number 7 here. So it says there shall be one sign allowed which cannot exceed 6 square feet and shall be located on the dwelling unit or the accessory building. So he has to make two tweaks there. One, to be able to say that we can do 32 square feet in an egg, and also it does not have to be attached to
Right.
the
right.
dwelling unit or accessory building. So,
Ken and Alice worked pretty hard on this, and Mark had talked to him, and I had talked to Doug too.
That was
Not as
one of
much
the-
as
that
they
was
did,
one of
but-
the questions that, yeah, you're
Actually,
Full court
I
press.
feel
Yeah.
a month's time was very quick that it got accomplished.
I was thinking over the
So-
weekend on your question. Yep.
the other piece that we had in there,
Yeah.
they had a piece, so there was some discussion, specifically around when you get down to,
So is pretty much all this red stuff gonna be added to it, or just?
going
it
to
is?
be, going to be added to it. I still asked Doug under the parts that were referencing the state statutes, like why can't you just not have that piece and just reference the state statute? To me, that's a lot cleaner. It's a lot easier for people to understand why. Inevitably, it's up, it's up to him, but we've at least voiced that
Okay.
concern that,
Why make it long?
why you're opening yourself up to every single time that statute changes. Now you have to go in this, which means Doug has to then turn around and send it out. And again, you can have it get lost in that translation of why they're doing it. So, the other piece, they talked about an official government sign. So, the example that Doug used here is, when you come into Tilden, they got the big Tilden sign, and on that sign there's additional smaller signs for nonprofits. So they had this provision in there that said, you can have only one of those signs at each of the 4 major directions. But then they tried to also limit the size of the nonprofit area signs within there. When we talked about it, we said, to me, that should just be a local control thing. If there's only 6 nonprofits that want to do it, why would you waste sign space and not utilize that? So Doug agreed to reword that part, and I seen he had it in there that basically, would give us the ability to use that area as we best see fit. So, and then when they also talked about this official government sign, you know, the question came up, well, what about the, 13 town of Wheaton signs that exist? Does that fall in here? And he said that that falls under the right-of-way signs.
Okay, yeah.
For signs in the right-of-way. So you can, it's definitely not easy to understand if you don't have that context of the information or examples of, okay, now I understand what they're saying. But once he had provided some examples and of where those things fit, it made a lot more sense. I still think there's opportunity for them to make that ordinance a lot easier to.
And maybe they will.
And maybe they will, but it's what I interpret from reading that is you're going to have follow-up questions, and that's just going to lead to somebody maybe potentially getting given 6 wrong answers.
Yeah, and everybody can interpret it a different way.
Everybody can interpret it a different way rather than just having the language in the ordinance, stated. So
It's been a long meeting. Well, thank you for going and getting that information and expressing our concerns.
I have a comment.
yeah,
There are 23 townships in Chippewa County. 4 of them are in Chippewa County zoning, as I believe. We are the only rural township in those 4. We should be operating under different requirements than what the county zoning is requiring. We said that we got out of the general fire district because we were a rural township, and this is the reason we should get out of Chippewa County.
Do you realize the expense that would cause her?
Okay, that's a different
That's a
topic.
different topic.
But that's, but that's a different topic, so.
but they were very receptive, to the feedback. So we were the only ones to provide feedback on the ordinance. Eagle Point was okay with it. Nobody else responded, out of the other zone townships. So, the feedback that was provided, it really kind of put some context in there, so when they're working on these ordinances, they're looking at it, based off of whatever person came in to comment. Maybe it was Hallie bringing up concerns, or it was Lafayette bringing up concerns, so it could be very easily when they're working through this where they forget about, more rural perspectives. That's where, when these things come out and they're asking for our feedback, we have to provide that information to make sure that perspective's there. If we don't, well,
They don't
then it's on us, because it was open for input.
And they're always willing to listen, and usually they're willing to adjust too.
I mean, the fact that, the concerns that we have brought up, Doug has listened and he has provided, either updates to this or, hey, here's the specific example, like in the case of Scott's, of where we have that situation. Let's look at, okay, what do we need to change there to make it more, we're not in the business of sending business to other surrounding townships. We're in the,
Yeah, we can't be doing that.
that's just not what we want to do based
Right.
off of an ordinance. So let's find a way to make sure that ordinance works.
Yeah, and anything, if it's a hazard, if you put a sign out and it blocks off the view when somebody pulls up to a stop sign and causes crashes, that's a problem. But if it's not doing that, what's the problem? If it's not a distraction, it's not a problem. It's not a problem unless it's a problem, so. That's the thing with the sign ordinances that we gotta keep hammering on it too. I'm sure somebody else is gonna come up with another one somewhere, guarantee it, because it happens every couple of years. Somebody comes up with another sign thing that we gotta go deal with it again, and, which is fine, that's what we're supposed to do. Figure it out, so we'll get our point of view across, so. All righty. Everything good on that then? Everybody good with it?
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Ken.
So
Yeah,
we're basically on that, we're waiting for him to finish up the reviews and see what he does with this, home.
Yeah, he was sending this back through their council, corporate council, see if there was any other things that they want, again, and that's, that's another perspective as well. When these things, they're doing legal reviews,
Yeah.
those things cost money too. So, they are at least looking at it from that to make sure that there's protections there, so.
Yep, okay.
So he was gonna send that out, it sounds like it would go in front of the county board in January.
Alrighty, so moving on then, new business. Review, discuss, act on Cedar Court, Lynn Schreiber request for approval, addition of existing office building for applied data at 2985 58th Street up Mound. Thought he was gonna be here, but I guess he doesn't have to be, but.
I think they thought they did.
Yeah, I mean, everybody know what this is now? This is right beside applied data.
right up the road here, just by
It's an
Northern
addition to-
Buildings in
It's
there?
an
Northland.
addition to
Northland Builders?
applied
Right.
data.
Right, it's an addition to that building.
That's correct.
And, going to the east side, so out in that field, they'll be just in that field. They're bringing the lot up about 6-7 feet, and set a building on there, run the parking lot around. They've got, I checked because I knew there was a floodplain, so they've got that showing, that little line there, that squiggly line is the floodplain that's going through there. So they've got that addressed. They did some, they knew about it. They were able to find all of that information, so, they've still gotta do the pouts and that kind of stuff. They have to still get that finished up. That isn't designed, but it's out there, so, and that'll be going through the county and the DNR and everybody else that has to approve that stuff, has to look at it yet. So, and they still have to do state approved drawings and all that kind of stuff to get the building built, so, anyway, that's, and they were just looking to make sure that we didn't have something going on there, and I don't know of any reason that they can't do what they're doing, so it meets our ordinances, so. Is there any issues with that?
Nope.
Did we have to, we don't really, do we need to act on it, Alice? Did they,
Well, you were there, I didn't think we did. I mean, we could act on it tonight.
I mean, we can just act on it and make a motion to approve that site plan.
Yeah.
I mean,
We
it's,
did, we approved it at the Wheaton Planning Commission meeting,
What was the vote?
6-0 in favor.
I'll make a motion that we approve it.
I'll second.
motion made and seconded to approve the site plan for the applied data project. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Review, discuss, act on proposed ordinance, public utilities. I should call that up too. Public utilities.
The only question the Wheaton Planning Commission had on this is that Wheaton is rural, and we were wondering if the statement about the public utilities, buildings, transmission lines, distribution lines, antennas, towers, not limited to electric, gas, television, cable, and installation above, should be applied to the ag districts. And we asked him why it was included in every single district, and he just said, well, for consistency. That particular line is in everything. Yeah. It's in R1, R2, it's in conservancy, it's in ag, it's in everything, and we just said, well, And he just wrote back and said, well, for consistency, Alice. And he asked me, what districts are you referring to? Well, we were referring to the ag district. That was just added in every single area, that particular line.
I read
What's
through
your name?
this thing, I guess I didn't see any big deals with any of it, but
Question. Are we saying that we are not going to change and we're gonna follow this rule? This is a Chippewa County zoning rule,
Yes.
this is.
so none of the other townships that are not Chippewa County will have to follow this.
Well,
Zone townships do.
what's that?
Zone townships do.
Yeah, any zone township has to follow
Rural-
the thing,
rural
but what this is
rural
doing,
township here,
what's that?
or rural township, do we want that stuff being allowed in our township?
What being allowed? The public utilities, the transmission lines, the
Yeah,
antennas,
for
towers?
anybody's land, they have no option.
Oh, no, that's not what that's saying.
Well, that's-
It's saying that,
Planning
um,
committee.
first of all, you gotta have public hearings. Secondly, this here is that it would be allowed with a conditional use permit. So that then the town can put conditions on it too. So that they can't just come and do anything that they want. That's what
Where
the,
does that say that in it?
That's under R1, R2. This
We
is
don't have
R1.
R1 and R2 here, though we have ag.
no, but that's what it is on each one of them. It's the conditional use. That's describing a conditional use is what, that they'll allow this in a conditional use, under a conditional use, permit, but, so then that's part of the conditions, and then the town can put conditions on it, so that you still do have control. I like the conditional
So if
use.
someone came here, if they were gonna do that utility across the land, and a resident came here, you guys would say, yeah, okay, we agree with you, they can't do that? Or you would vote on it and say, you have no option?
Well, I don't know, Herb, that's all theoretical. That's all theoretical. The only thing you can do is, the only thing we can do is look at at the situation as they come up, because we have no idea. But anybody running a utility across your property, they have to get your permission. People can't run unless they have a utility easement already, and then they can do it now.
And that is not how I understood it at the planning committee meeting, that they could do that if they wanted to.
They can't run across my property without me giving them permission. They don't have a utility easement across my property. They can't go on it unless they buy a property easement. They can't go across your
So what
property.
is this then, what are we looking at?
Well, this is saying that so that if you want, somebody says, Herb, I wanna get this, you run this utility across, and you say, okay, I wanna do that. They can't actually do it according to this ordinance right now. So what they're gonna do is allow it to be done if they get a conditional use. So it's actually permitting something, not denying something,
Making
I
it
think.
better. It's making
Right.
it better.
Yeah, it's making it so that you have control of it instead of not having control of it.
Because if you look in here under the egg, you know, underneath the egg district, all right, he had some of those pieces, but then under the conditional uses, he adds this other piece where before that was not in there,
Right, right.
which meant you couldn't.
Couldn't stop them.
Yeah, the board, the town had nothing to say about it. If somebody had a whole strip of land from, all the way across, and they wanted to run this utility across there, even though it was right behind your house, they could have done it. Now, they have to get a conditional use permit to do it. Now, what you have to do then is go to the board and say, board, this is really not a good thing to do, and convince the board that it's not, or they have to convince the board that it is, whatever, I mean, then that's a discussion that is legitimate and needs to take place, but this actually gives you some control of that, instead of just letting them do letting anything happen that somebody wants to that has the property already. That's really what it is. It's,
And if you don't want it right there, you could say, I won't allow it here, but I would be willing to allow it down here,
right,
and they'd have to work with it, or,
right, or something like that. I mean, that's, and that may not be okay with them, and then there might be lawyers and lots of money and all kinds of things involved that would change everybody's opinion in the end. I don't know, but, I mean, that's the way things work. Money talks, but this should give the public more of a control of it. That's the way I was reading that, is that it was actually helping. Yeah.
I was at the planning meeting, and that's not how I understood it.
No.
I must have misunderstood.
Yeah, that's the way I understand it to be, that it's actually adding something in to have control of, which wasn't in there before. It didn't do that before. So, yeah, because one of the things, junk and salvage yards is in that. So,
Non-metallic mines.
so now we're putting this in so that we have control of it, because if you don't, junkyards, if you don't put them someplace, you gotta, then you don't have control of it. Okay, any other discussions or need to do anything with that? I mean, what was Doug asking for that? He was just asking if we wanted to do.
If we had any comments.
Okay, so we can just move on with that and let
Correct.
him know that we're okay with it, or,
That's it.
okay.
I can let him know we're okay with it.
Review, discuss act, new part-time employee for town recycling center. So Larry's been down there working and seems to be doing a pretty good job. This is a part-time, not a whole lot of time involved.
He's been involved quite a while already, helping,
Yeah.
us, you know,
Yeah,
and,
I'd recommend that we let Larry go down there and do what is it, 1 day a week, basically. You guys are alternating,
every other week, 2 days.
yeah, so it's.
you got a half day
averages
and a full day?
Yeah. So, what do you guys think?
I make a motion, we accept it.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to let Larry Hanner take care of the dump, along with Roger, of the recycling
Recycling
center.
center.
It isn't a dump, it's a recycling center.
Engineer.
He's an engineer.
Recycling engineer.
There you go. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay, and we're happy to have you down there. I think you've been doing a really good job, so that's really worked out well.
I've been there enough, I've seen you guys how they work, so it was just a matter of being able to pick up the little bit of things I didn't know, and it, you just.
Which envelope to put the stuff in? It's
How to make out the time card.
how to make out a time card. That's
Most important.
yeah, that's an important one. Okay, review, discuss, act on new dog catcher for the town. So Roger got all the stuff, and Rich, we appreciate all the work you did and everything, so really, you did a really good job on an awful lot of stuff with not a whole lot of equipment. We finally got you equipment, and now you're moving to Chicago.
I got all the equipment.
Well, Roger got it, well, except for there's one leash left at the, but it's torn up. It didn't last a day when I had the dog tied up. I mean, it's chewed up, and you're better off with a,
Chain.
you know, like a wide leather leash about 4 foot long or 3 foot. I think that'd hold up better than those orange, leashes that you guys got.
I got stuff.
Yeah, we'll
But
get,
there's one there that Roger's got, the other one is still tied up, in my, house.
Okay.
Keep it.
No, I showed it to you.
Maybe we can use
Um,
a clip.
So, I propose that we just have Roger take over the dog catching duties for the time being and
You
see,
expressed the
see how
interest
long
in
he
doing that.
likes doing that.
I did 2 dogs already, once when he was in Chicago, and then another one that he and I could not handle. And we got the cops up there and they couldn't do it, so we got 2 girls from the vet clinic coming.
Yeah, yeah. That was the one out on 103rd, right?
Like Mueller's
Yeah,
landscape.
yeah, that big mastiff.
Dog
Ooh.
did not like
Yeah,
men.
by the winery.
Yeah, or by the, right by Mueller, Circle M, yeah.
Or-
That was a
yeah.
big, that was a mean dog. I mean, that one, it was like,
wasn't
ooh,
like that, pit bull.
that little,
Yeah, he did some damage to that woman.
yeah, he really tore her up. And he was just a little guy. He was just a baby, a few months old.
They're so nice.
No, they're so nice.
So lovable.
Oh, that, and it was really nice. When it was nice, it was really nice.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, just like that, it was just a
Snap.
devil. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, that, but, yeah, okay, I recommend that we hire Roger to do that.
I'll second that.
Was that was a motion there, Mark? Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
You know, there's one thing, you know, you got the, my telephone number, that was Brian's, and I'm gonna cut out the, it's with,
Yeah.
WWP.
Yeah,
Roger could probably take that number over, cause I don't know if he'd want his home number associated with the dog catcher. I mean, probably a separate number would be good. You know, it's up to you guys and Roger.
yeah, we'll figure out what we do for the phone number. We'll figure out what we can do. You're talking about, yeah, using the West Wisconsin number, the 874 number?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I would
once I
just
get
disable
rid
it
of
and that's
West
okay.
Wisconsin,
We'll just, cause what we'll do is we'll post it on the website about what number to call for the dog catcher and all, and, you know, when you need somebody. And really what we're gonna need to do with that is put a couple of cell phone numbers on, cause those are things where that needs to get taken care of like really fast. It's not good to put it on to a answering machine that might not get listened to for a day or two. I mean, we really need to have, so we'll have to, we'll put that on, like, put my cell number on, that's fine, on it, and you know, a couple of people have a couple of different cell numbers to call, so that for sure somebody can get a hold of somebody, that something can get taken care of, cause if you have a dog like that darn pit bull that time, or that mastiff, either one, you gotta get them taken care of right away. Them aren't things to horse around with. Somebody get really.
yeah, it only happened twice, those
Right.
two.
Right, but
And,
still, them are, you know,
357
it's,
to 100.
But when it does,
Sonny Eckford used a shotgun.
you need to take care of it.
yep, yep,
He was on
exactly.
board.
But everything,
Yeah,
every other time, the dogs were good,
Yeah,
no problems with them.
all right.
Did we vote on that?
On what?
Dog catcher?
Dog catcher?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good.
Review, discuss, act on possibility of hiring someone as constable to enforce ordinances. So, do we have an enforcement? Did we finish? We didn't finish the enforcement ordinance, did we?
We have a citation.
Is it all done? The whole thing?
The
Okay.
citation ordinance? Yeah, it's all done. Wanna bring it up? Yeah. I think it's the first one. Yeah, right there, chapter 1.
Okay, then each ordinance has the amount, let's see.
We're gonna do this just on a call base, per call base, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because we're not going to make any money on these. This is gonna cost us money every time, for sure. The forfeitures are going to the schools. That's where the money for the forfeitures for town ordinances goes to the school boards, to the schools.
Oh, is that where it goes?
Yeah, the intent is not ever to be making money on ordinance violations. Towns aren't really, you know, it's not. The intention is to change behavior, not make money.
Mm-hmm.
We can, with that surcharge, we could maybe get enough to offset the cost of the
Constable?
constable, but, you know, by the time you get to court, if that constable goes to court and testifies and, you know, that's kind of expensive. That usually is not, it's gonna be, surcharge of $189 may or may not cover that. So,
Now, these are just pertaining to the ordinances that are just in Wheaton alone.
Right, right.
Anything that's covered by, is county ordinance or by
right, they
state,
take care of that.
the county takes
Yeah,
care of it.
yeah, they have to take care of that.
I think Tilden, I talked to the deputy out here one night, and, the Chippewa deputy's got all of Tilden's ordinances.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I asked him, does he have to be a constable to be able to issue these citations? And that's what they do over there, they got a cop that goes in.
Yeah, yeah, I think we need to do, I think you need to have someone that is actually law enforcement and issue all these things and, you know how to handle all these situations so that, it's just and pay somebody to do that, so,
Pay them on a per call basis, right?
per call basis, yeah.
At one time, I think, Sonny Eckright's grandson, he works for the Chippewa County Sheriff's Department full-time now. He was interested in possibly doing that. He expressed some interest in it.
Yeah, I think Chris would be a good one to do that, right,
Mitch Gibson's retired.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Who?
Yeah, I don't think he, and
Mitch Gibson.
I don't think he wants to get back into it either.
I don't think so. No.
What did you have in mind on these, like $50 a call, or?
I don't know, I guess we'd need to sit down and talk to a couple of people and see if they're interested in it. You want me to I'll contact Chris and talk to him a bit and see if he's willing or if somebody else with the department is. I mean, there's other people out here too that
Right.
are on the sheriff's department, so.
Wanna do that?
Yeah, I can, I'll give Chris a call.
Okay.
If you guys wanna take a look at that, I'll ask him what he'd have to have for a per call basis. I mean, you know, he's gonna have car time, windshield time, and he's gonna have writing up time, and he's gonna have to go to court maybe. I mean, it's gonna have to be a per hour charge or something like that, I would
Well,
think.
basically ask him what he charged to go, if he's gotta go out on a call, then if he's gotta go what do you charge if he's gotta go to court?
Yeah.
Let's
could
go
do
that way
He
because
would
it
kind
just-
of have an
Call
idea.
for court. Do that, ask him about,
Per call,
yeah.
and
then
if he has to write a citation,
Yeah.
or so maybe writing a cite, and then
If he'd have to go to court, what do you
Court.
charge? Yeah,
time.
yeah, court time too.
I would
So,
imagine he
so the
would.
call, yeah, then, and then the other 2 times would be something that he would be able to maybe get a little bit more accurate, but, you know, the per call, he wouldn't have any idea how long that's gonna take him until he found out what the call was, so.
Right, and how many times you might have to go back.
Right.
What, are you gonna include the mileage into the fee? Have it
Yeah, I
included
think
in the
so.
fee?
Yeah.
I
So
think
it's just
so.
a one charge thing?
Yeah, yeah.
I have a question on that. What's the driving force behind needing a constable now? As opposed, so I don't know the history. There's never been one before, correct?
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
We used to have, there was always been,
So, I mean,
there was.
what is the
because we
difference
passed the
from
ordinances.
when there wasn't one to needing one now?
We just don't have one available right now, so if there's, any enforcement that we're doing, we really don't have a way of enforcing it, cause we don't have law enforcement involved. Now, we can call, and Chippewa County can, the sheriff's department can enforce the regulations, and they'll charge us for it, if they get to it. So what the idea would be is to have somebody that would come and get to it, you know, because the sheriff's department we just don't have time. And that's typically what they
The
would
drugs,
do.
they have so
Did,
much.
did you ever know
Oh,
Jack
yeah, they got
Blesky?
so many business.
Jack was town constable years ago.
I'm just wondering from like a legality standpoint, if you hire Chippewa County and you have an actual deputy go and God forbid something happened and get shot. Well, I mean, he's an actual law enforcement officer working as a law enforcement officer. If we have Chris Echright, he's not really a law enforcement officer
Yeah,
working for the county,
No.
working for the town.
right, he'd be working for the town. So, yeah, I agree. I think we got to look at what we have to do. For one thing, I don't wanna do it myself, because I'm not a law enforcement officer at all, and I don't think anybody on the board should be doing law enforcement when we're not trained law enforcement. So, so we need to start heading that direction and see, but we need to be able to enforce, and part of it is, you know, whatever ordinances we have that people are going to complain about. Some of these, like these junk cars and stuff, that's actually county ordinances, so they're the ones who get to, have to enforce them, but, but yeah, and I don't think we have any we don't have an ordinance that really is public nuisance, disorderly conduct, you know, things like that law enforcement can handle pretty quickly. I mean, them guys really know how to do that. Chris is really good with that kind of stuff, actually, so. I don't think we have any, like, things that's gonna require gunplay. I don't think we have any ordinances like that. You wouldn't call the sheriff for anyway, but it's just to make sure that somebody knows that there is some enforcement going on, you know, that we do have, I mean, these are to change people's habits, basically, is what it is, to change the way they act rather than, so it's gonna cost us money, for sure. Every time these ordinances cost the townships money.
But I don't really foresee them going out that often on
I
this,
can't
you know,
imagine
a few times a year.
once, twice a year or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, and that was
Yeah.
just my,
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, well, is it just cheaper to pay the county? I don't know.
Well, the problem with the county is just getting them to do it.
Sure.
You know, it's just that they are so busy with drugs and things that in the county, they're so strapped for.
Their
For time.
emergency calls come first. This
Yeah,
is kind of at the bottom.
Yeah, we would be they'd really have to be to come and help us out. Yeah, I mean, that's really what it
No,
comes
it's
down
true.
to, it's,
Yeah.
and it's not a knock against them guys, I mean, they're plenty
Still
busy,
homeschool.
they're definitely
He learns that
short-staffed
was- that was,
constantly.
Siegel.
Um,
No, I met
And
her.
so, we're just,
That's where she's from.
you know, it would be more,
Out of Cadet.
I don't know, I think we do need to have some enforcement, though. I agree with
Or
you.
we do, or there's no sense to have the
Right,
ordinances.
right.
And
There's no-
again, probably once or twice a year.
Yeah, yeah,
If you just have a Joe Blow show up in plain clothes, I mean, anybody can actually be a constable. Ernie Amundsen was town constable for many, many years.
Many years.
Ernie,
And,
I remember, he was a dog catcher too.
Yes, he was.
and if just a Joe
Ernie was
Blow
just
shows up, the
everybody.
people don't have as much respect as if you got somebody in a uniform showing up, you know.
well, I'll talk to Chris and see what kind of money he would want for something like that, I can't
Got me
imagine
struck
it
one time
being
and his
terrible.
pistol was laying on the
that
dash
would
in the
cost the
box.
town a huge
Who's that?
amount, so.
Ernie Amundsen.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks. Next.
Review, discuss,
They are
deadline for
updated.
tornado, items to be picked up at the Wheaton Fire Station. I don't know that, we've had this out on the website, I don't know, is anybody, I don't know, Adam kind of mentioned last night, he thought that we don't need, just leave it there. And I guess I don't, there isn't that much stuff there. We wanna leave it until spring or something, or?
Why don't we, maybe try to get a hold of a couple of the radio stations, the different radio stations, to put it out there, to go out and check the web page, and all the items are cataloged, and if there's anything that's there, to get a hold of somebody.
Adam seemed to think that it was hard to find it, Ken,
Hard to find
Where's it at?
on the website.
Tornado cleanup.
Tornado cleanup. Personal items recovered.
There you go.
Yeah, there it is.
That ain't too hard.
Mm-mm,
Yeah.
there they are,
Yeah, and then you can go through and look
Yeah.
at them
yeah. That's pretty easy.
What, we got 40, or is there more?
No, there's about
and 200.
several, yeah, there's a couple hundred.
That's a lot of stuff sitting at the station.
Yeah, and there's lots of photographs and things like that that people may want, or, I don't know, I guess we can just maybe put another thing on the front page or something saying, you know, check if you have anything lost. Check for it on this location or something, or put a click button on the front page, I don't know, to go right
Yeah,
to that page.
I could do that.
So that people can, and then just leave it up there for the next 3 months anyway, and I think that in the spring, and as they start getting through the woods with the logging and all that kind of stuff, that people are gonna find more personal stuff laying out in them woods. And there may be things that people finally go, oh, yeah, I would like to have that back. But that's gonna take a while.
I think too, I think people were focused on, trying to get things cleaned up, trying to get some form of normalcy going on,
Yeah.
that this,
Not
for
worried
all
about-
practical purposes, was
The
not
last
number
thing.
one, probably not number 10 on their list of
Sure.
things, so,
Sure, you had to get heat.
right.
Needed
Be
heat
ready for winter.
pictures.
Put a roof on the house.
Put a roof on the house. Exactly. Okay, well, let's just leave that till spring here, April, May, April anyway. We'll just leave it up there. It's not taking up that much space in the fire
And
station.
maybe, like I said, maybe we could contact the radio stations. A lot of times for public service, they'll do that. Just say,
Yeah,
anybody that's had any loss in
Yeah.
Wheaton, that's
okay,
check the website.
sounds good. Any potential agenda items?
I had a couple of people that are hard of hearing say they wish that we had a PA system here with a couple of speakers in the hall so that they could come and hear. They said they're listening to it on the videotape, but then, it's, the board meeting is over with, so they can't comment. So they were wishing we had a couple speakers in here, you know, with a mic that they could hear better if they were in the audience. A PA system type thing. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Am I explaining that well enough or no?
I think so.
It's just something. They can hear it well on their, you know, they're at home and they can listen to the tape, you know.
That works fine.
Well, sure,
Yeah.
but they can't comment then, you know, because they don't wanna come to the meetings because they can't hear. Roger, can you hear me? Oh, you can. Right, but some people even with hearing aids, I'm not picking on you, but, you know, some people even with hearing aids can't hear that well.
Generally, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking, you know, maybe next year we might wanna look at just a couple of speakers in here for people that would help for the audience to hear us. A couple residents brought that up to me.
Maybe put it in the back corners or something.
I'm just saying.
And they
How-
could sit back there.
What are we doing, Mark, with that drop box? Has that been ordered and stuff?
It isn't gonna get in this year. We gotta get these things out, and it's gonna have to get picked up, and so Lenny will just keep picking the stuff up and putting it in. We'll have to have him put it in the office, so.
Okay.
And people will just have to mail, they'll have to mail the stuff. I guess we could put it in a Dropbox, but.
Oh, the taxes are coming here right there. Well, then they'll just have to put in there. Okay, yeah, in the clerk's office.
Just as
We're-
a tip, I think you're gonna wish you hadn't come to home at your office.
Why?
Because the mail is, it's here today at this hour, tomorrow later. I don't know if you're gonna come over here all the time and, you know,
Well, I work till 6 every day, so it should be here by then.
if you went on top of that every single day,
It will be.
it's a tough job, you'll find out.
And if you can talk to them, to Ruth here, Laura, and see what, for mailing that out, exactly what you have to do for mailing that all in amount, cause them all need to get out by the end of next week, so,
Jonas already has a, but they're small compared to us, so.
yeah.
Ours were just ready to be, we got an email today that they're ready to be picked up today, so we'll get them out.
You don't have to stamp anything, and you don't seal anything.
They got it all done?
Huh?
They got it all done?
No, them, how many boxes did you get, 2?
Well,
I
we'll let
haven't
you
gotten
get
them
that, we'll let you get that here
Gotten them yet, neither?
at the end,
They're
so.
ready. They're ready.
Okay, next meeting, Tuesday, January 14th.
Okay.
Motion adjourned,
So moved.
Second?
motion made and seconded, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Aye. Ask you a couple of questions before you leave.
Anybody wants to see